In episode 4 of Starlight Guides, we get to know our new boat in Pittwater before sailing up the coast to the Gold Coast. We spent a couple of days getting to know the boat, just tacking backwards and forwards in Pittwater.
Okay, go.
Once we felt like we got to know her a little bit, we headed back to the Royal Prince Albert Yacht Club just for a little bit of reprovisioning and to get a few things done. But that night, a storm came in.
So we're in the middle of a Sydney supercell. It's a massive chain of thunderstorms moving through Sydney. Fortunately for us, we came back into the Marina today to just pick up a couple of things and wait for a window. And it must be blowing good 30 to 40 knots outside, and it's pouring with rain. And there's lightning and thunder everywhere right over the top of us. Really quite impressive right here in the Marina. Lucky we're not anchored somewhere.
But as the storm died away, I pulled out the passage planning and started looking forward to the new upcoming passage.
We can see there's a tropical cyclone system starting to form up between Vanuatu and Namibia, and normally they're that far offshore that it's really not an issue for us, so I wouldn't normally think about it, but you can see here that they're certainly presenting a potential threat to the east coast or southeast coast of Queensland, and virtually directly into the path of where we're heading. So anyway, it's not nice to see that coming when you're heading off the next day, but you know, we've got plenty of places we can put in, and we should get plenty of warning, so it shouldn't be an issue. Good morning, baby.
Good morning.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning and it's time to go. So we've really done everything that we can think of to get the boat ready for the trip. The forecast today hasn't changed. We're still expecting 15 to 20 knot southeasterly, and then tomorrow 10 to 15 knot easterly, and so that's, you know, really about ideal. So at least we're pretty sure that we can get to Port Stephens tonight at the very least. If not, maybe Coffs Harbour tomorrow night, and maybe even Brisbane the following night. We'll see how we go. So let's go, baby. Alright, it's time to go. 1200 nautical miles, got to start somewhere. It's going to start here.
And just like that, we'd let go the lines and we're headed out of the Marina, off up the coast on a 1200 nautical mile delivery.
Yeah, it's unfamiliar water, nighttime. We haven't sailed this boat much, so we're just being very super cautious. We're only motoring along gently here in the busy waters of Pittwater, and probably in about another half an hour we'll reach the entrance to Broken Bay, and we'll set some sail and move outside. So we've got a problem with the main halyard is wrapped around the port side spreader, and so I can't get the sail up, and at the moment I'm having trouble getting it down again because it's still wrapped around that spreader. So I'm just trying to sort out what to do.
Of course, after 10 years of being on land and not at sea, I promptly threw up, and then continued to throw up every 10 minutes for the next 13 hours. It was a tough trip. A lot of roll. We had a large swell coming out of the southeast, and then a swell coming out of the northeast on top of that, and then only a light breeze to to steady the boat, so she rolled like a corkscrew for a very long time. There's always a silver lining though, and for us as we approached Port Stephens, a huge pod of dolphins came by. They'd herded up a large school of small bait fish, and they were having a blast. They're playing with us as we went past. Well, we're here in Port Stephens now. It's quite calm inside, but boy oh boy, that was a rolly trip up the coast, nothing like I expected, and certainly one of the hardest trips I've done for a long time. That was about a 2 to 2.5 metre swell coming in from the southeast, south-southeast, and about a 1 metre swell on top of that coming out of the east-northeast with about a 10 knot easterly, so the boat was rolling all over the place, and I threw up pretty much constantly for 13 hours, and I can tell you now I'm absolutely shattered. So I clearly need to find my sea legs again. Tarn fared slightly better. She was sick for about maybe 12 or 11 of those 13 hours, no, maybe 10 of those 13 hours. So towards the end she was, I think, almost enjoying herself. And today's Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day, my love. I'm sorry I couldn't give you something better
today.
But we went to the first anchorage here, but there's a swell coming in, and I'm so tender and so destroyed inside. I need a flat night, a really flat night tonight, so I'm going to take us further up inside Port Stephens and see if we can find somewhere that's 100% swell free. And then before I go out there again, I'm going to be taking seasick tablets for sure. Anyway, we made it. Finding a free mooring, we just helped ourselves and settled down for a nice, peaceful afternoon and a good night's sleep. Here in beautiful Port Stephens this morning, it really is lovely here. This is one of the nicest anchorages I've ever seen. Maybe because we picked it in good weather, but maybe not too. The only problem here is that sitting on this mooring, every time a powerboat goes past we get left rolling in the wake, but it usually passes within a few seconds, so it's not too bad. The plan is this morning we'll zip around to the Marina and just pop in some fuel. We used quite a lot of fuel yesterday because we motored 13 hours, or motor sailed 13 hours to get through those light airs. So we might as well top it up, and then we'll decide whether we're going to continue up the coast today or just take a day of rest. Obviously yesterday was pretty tough on both me and Tarn, so I'm not in a hurry to put her back through that, but we also have a weather window that will close, so the sooner we go the better. The big question would be if that southeasterly swell has eased at all, because with that southeasterly swell and then the east to northeast 1 metre swell coming in on top of that, plus only about 5 to 10 knots of wind, she was rolling like a corkscrew yesterday most of the day, and that's why we're both pretty crook, I think. Plus nerves, of course, because it's the first time we've had her out offshore, and also for me a lot of stress and pressure to make sure that everything goes well and goes perfectly and there's no problems. So I think all that combined probably made us both pretty crook yesterday. So we'll start today a little bit better, hopefully, and
I really would like to get going, but I can also see the benefit in staying an extra day. It's certainly beautiful here. It wouldn't hurt us. Certainly be very nice, but also we've got a weather window too, because a time window. Tarn needs to be on the flight on the 1st of February, so we need to be in Brisbane on the 28th, sorry, 1st of March. We need to be in Brisbane by the 28th of February, so I need to think about the timing as well. That's certainly doable though. But in the meantime, we're going to enjoy this morning, put some fuel on board and then decide what we're going to do.
After taking on some fuel, I decided it was better to just keep going. So we set some sails and headed out of Port Stephens. I'm feeling better, Tarn's feeling better.
Yes.
So I think we're going to have a good day today. We may even stay at sea for 24 hours. Go all the way to Coffs Harbour or even further. See how it works out. With the wind coming straight out of the east-northeast, we needed to motor the first 20 odd miles before we could turn more northerly and catch the breeze.
I want to introduce, this is what happens when you take a Thai girl out of Thailand where it's 35 degrees and 100% humidity every day, and you take it to New South Wales where it's only like, I don't know, 23 or 24 or 25 degrees, and it's windy. It's sunny and it's a beautiful day, but she's cold, poor little thing.
1, 2.
4 layers and she's still cold. Oh, you're gonna love it. So we're having a really fat sail at the moment. We had to motor out of Port Stephens straight into a very light or almost non-existent easterly. But once we rounded Sugarloaf Point, we got a nice easterly breeze, which meant we could have a nice little sail. So we put some sails up. We weren't making a lot of progress, but we left the motor off, and as the day's gone on, it's filled in. We're getting a good solid 15 knots now out of the east, with a little bit of south in it. So it's giving us a nice little broad reach here, and we're really cracking along. I haven't got the speed log in, so I don't know how fast the boat's actually going through the water, but we're getting speeds over the ground of about 4.5 to 5.5 knots, occasionally touching 6. But that's because we're sitting in the middle of the EAC, and my estimation of the boat speed means we're probably losing 1.5 to 2 knots to the EAC at the moment. But it's not a difficult sail. On this broad reach, we're making good progress. So right now we're about 25 nautical miles south of Crowdy Head, which is the next port that we could put into if we wanted to, but I think Tarn and I both want to stay at sea tonight, I think. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. And aim for Coffs Harbour sometime late tomorrow, I would think. And maybe if the wind's still holding, we might keep going past Coffs Harbour even. Ultimately the goal is to get at least to Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast, and sort of reassess the weather windows then. If we can get sort of north of Coffs Harbour, we're going to avoid these northerlies that are going to swing back on the southern end of New South Wales coast. So from about Coffs Harbour south, it's going to start turning to a northerly sort of late tomorrow, early the next day. So if we can get up past Coffs Harbour, we'll still be able to ride these east to southeasterlies further north. So that's the plan. We've got the fishing line out, but we haven't caught anything yet. We're giving it a crack, you never know. I'm really just got it out there just for the hell of it more than anything else. We're having fun.
Yes. This I keep here. And I keep little bit. It's a girl what the
Yeah, there's the perfect girl. She's first time on a sailboat, first time offshore, first night at sea, only her second day at sea, and she's downstairs trying to cook dinner. Like, you know, girls like that are really hard to find. Ones with courage and guts. She's a fighter, that little one. She's a keeper. You can't have her, she's all mine. We're about 20 miles south of Crowdy Head there, so we're making good progress. this East Australian current is definitely kicking our ass. We're easily getting 1 to 2 knots against. So we're winning. Big fish, not small fish.
Oh!
Not long after landing a nice little tuna, we headed into Coffs Harbour for the night. Tan couldn't wait to get off the boat and stretch her legs, so we took a big long walk. It's nice to walk. We spent a gorgeous night in the Marina at Coffs Harbour and headed off the next day north.
Go up, down a little bit, then after this, after go down. So we've got a really solid hook up here going on. This is a big fish. This one, it's not a small one. This is going to take a little time to get this fella in. Yeah, Tom, take this. So we've brought the boat to a virtual stop.
Yeah, lucky.
So we brought the boat to an almost a stop, just to keep us a slight way off. And just to keep a little bit of steerage space. We're just passing between 2 deep water shoals where a lot of guys are fishing. Holy moly! This is a big fish. It's a good one. It's going to take a while to tire this guy out. The fish has just popped up on the surface here. Oh. It's a little hard to tell how big he is because he's a little way away. We may have him hooked through the side, which is why I'm experiencing so much trouble. But either way, it's a decent sized fish. He's down under the water now. We're just trying to tire him out before he tires me out.
Ooh. Come on. Yeah.
Come on. Here we go under again, mate.
Soon.
Unfortunately, we can't zoom in to show you this guy. He's probably 30 metres behind the boat. He's on the surface now because he's really tuckered out. But every now and then he dives down like now. So we're getting a little bit closer now. He's tiring out. He's letting me take a little bit of line. He's probably maybe 10 to 15 metres from the boat. A bit hard to tell because I can't see him. There he is. Is that him? How I'm going to get him on, I'm not so sure because I don't have a gaff. Getting side flash, so it's possible I've got him snagged through the side, which is why he's so heavy, why he's being so hard. Okay, watch your feet.
Ooh.
Yeah, we did get him through the mouth and through the side, which is why it's been so hard to pull up. We'll let him settle a bit, and then I'll deal with him in a minute.
Yeah.
There's one good fish, this one. Not too big, maybe, I would say maybe 7 kilos, 5 to 7 kilos. But because we got him through the side, he was able to really fight. We're just passing Yamba Iluka entrance now off New South Wales. It's just coming up on 5 p.m, daylight savings time, 4 p.m. for those in Queensland. And we're getting a really nice breeze now, a good 20 knots out of the east, northeast, which means we're really sailing fast. We're topping up around the 7.5 to 8 knots and really kicking the EAC's butt right now. We're very pleased with ourselves. So the boat's just cranking along. At the moment she's pretty much at her peak at that 20 knots, I think, with the full rig up. If the wind shows any sign of increase, I think I'll tuck a reef in the main just to ease up the pressure a little bit. But at the moment, she's going really fast. Tan's never leaned over this much before, apart from when we rolled, so she's loving it. We're really having a great sail. I'll show you around, we'll have a bit of a look at the sails. Another spectacular sunset at sea. We're just passing Evans Head in New South Wales. We had the wind 20 knots steady, peaking at 25 at times. I've got the headsail reefed down a little bit, and I've got the first reef in the main just to slow us down and keep her under better control, which has brought us down to about 6 knots. And she's sailing really comfortably at 6 knots now, so we're just going to watch the sun go down and settle in for the night. In the morning, should be in Queensland.
Sailing through the night, Tan got to wake up to views of the Gold Coast. As we passed through the Gold Coast Seaway, a developed swell had set up a few breakers across the bar. We were able to get around them fairly easily. It wasn't too bad at crossing, but it was a run-out tide, so I had to keep my wits about me.
We've put into the Gold Coast on the southeast Queensland coast, and that cyclone that we started the video off looking at has actually become quite a threat. It's very unusual for cyclones to make it that far south along the Queensland coast. It's not unheard of, but it's certainly unusual. In this case, the cyclone is tracking at about a Category 2, was Category 3. And the forecast at this stage suggests that it won't make landfall in southeast Queensland. But you can see here that the current forecast offshore from Brisbane, southeast Queensland, is for 35 knots. And the forecast is rising to up to 45 knots. And then, of course, wind gusts in a cyclone considerably stronger. So I would expect they're going to see offshore wind speeds of, in excess of 60 knots at times. So there was absolutely no question that we were going to put into the Gold Coast at the first opportunity and make ourselves as safe as we could. So that's what we've done. The vessel is currently sitting in the Southport Yacht Club in the Gold Coast, which is somewhere safe for her. And due to another issue, a family emergency, we've actually flown back home to Airlie Beach. So we're in Airlie Beach. The boat's tied up safe and sound in the Marina. Our neighbour in the Marina, Neil, is keeping an eye on her for her. Thanks, Neil. And we'll fly back to her at the end in about a week's time and continue the journey up the coast. So I'll just give you some idea of what the cyclone's expected to do. This is the European model playing here. As it approaches the coast, the cyclone's actually forecast to then make a sudden turn to the north-northwest and track up the Queensland coast. So that's what it's expected to do. It's been a very unusual cyclone. It's been a long time since I've seen anything quite like this. But you can see going forward quite a number of days that the southern Queensland coast was going to be closed down for boating. So there was absolutely no point in us even being there, really. And of course, with family emergency having to deal with that, there was no question. But as the cyclone goes north, you can see that conditions do start to ease on that southern Queensland coast. And we'll be booked, well, we have our flight booked to fly back down to the Gold Coast on Thursday the 28th. And we're actually in a position then to depart on Saturday the 2nd. So we can see that as we approach that time frame, the winds along the South Queensland coast are actually easing significantly. And a couple of days later, the swell left behind by that cyclone should dissipate as well. So I'm anticipating a departure from the Gold Coast around the 2nd of March. And I'll be fortunate enough to have my son and his best mate on board for the trip for the remaining part. Unfortunately, Tan won't be joining us. She has to go back to Thailand. Temporarily, of course. She's coming back to be with me permanently. But my son and his mate and myself will continue the delivery up the coast from about the 2nd onwards.